to the ZAFFIE show. We're happy to be here and hope that you will join us. The weather's been much better in Maine, and for September, it's warm. And I watched the news this morning, and I feel so bad for those people that are flooded in the hurricane. I guess all we can do from here is pray.
Absolutely.
And today we have a different show, and I'm going to introduce Dan Bedard.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dan. He is an organic farmer, and he's at the Saco Farmers Market. And he has natural herbs and nice food, and the pickled beets are delicious.
Thank you.
You'll have to stop by and say hello.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm also going to introduce Father Dominic Tumusiime. Did I do it right?
Right.
Good. Let me hear you say it.
Tumusiime.
Tumusiime.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Tumusiime. That's good. And Father Dominic is a missionary to the Good Shepherd Parish priest who was transferred from Oregon and originally born and raised in Uganda. Now, would you tell us how you got in? Tell us about your life, because I think it's going to be so interesting. I don't know anything.
Thanks very much for inviting me to speak to you, but also to
Thank you
the
for
audience.
Coming.
Thank you. I'm born from Uganda, 1964, and my birth was a little bit having some trouble with my mother, spending 3 days in labor.
Oh boy.
And lastly, there was a religious sister who was working about 3 miles away from my home. And she happened to hear that there was a woman suffering in the village. And so she had to go. But as she was preparing to go, she thought of taking a bag of tea leaves with her in a pocket. And she went. Reaching home, my mom was helpless. And she went to the kitchen and prepared concentrated tea. When she gave it to my mom, it induced labor.
Oh.
And I was born. And after my birth, then everybody said, wow, what name can we give this rascal here? And they gave me my first name, actually, which is Tumusiime.
Oh,
and Tumusiime means we thank him. That's God.
I think that's so interesting.
Beautiful.
And so I grew up. My childhood was nice. I don't remember anything very strange, but I lived with my grandparents as my young parents were trying to find another home far away from our village. They left me home to be with my grandparents.
Grandparents are nice, though.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Yeah, they love me. Now they have all gone to their home.
Yep.
But I really love them because
you're lucky.
I am who they were to me.
You're very lucky.
Thank you. And then I had to join my primary education when I was 9 years old in a village that was not old at all. But in urban centers, I was a big boy. And when I was 16 years, I completed my primary education.
You did?
And
how did you do that?
Well, I did it through my mother's. My parents are a generation that just were following the colonizers, and it is a period that had no education role models. And so they never went to class. And my mom, who intuitively liked education, put me in school, and I just went on. I never found any pressure. We were not rich to have school fees and everything, but my mother was working so hard to make sure I have books, I have pencils, but that was not easy.
I bet when you went home from school, she checked on you.
Oh, she checked on me, but having not gone to school, she didn't know even what to check.
So at what point, Father, did you have the thoughts of having a religious life?
Yeah, when I was again a little kid, I really liked hunting. And I'm a second born of the 9 siblings.
9 siblings?
Yeah, 9 siblings.
Oh, boy.
And our eldest is a boy too. And he liked very much to go to church, to serve at the altar. So every morning he wakes up to go to church. I would also wake up and go to the mountains for hunting. I never was not very much interested in the things of the church. I used to accompany my godparent, who was like my role model in the hunting business. And I had my personal dog too. I had my own dog that I was training, and it was great that it would always listen to what I'm saying. And when it catches an animal, it brings it back to me. It was very interesting.
Well, you had him trained.
Yes. And so later, my mom, one morning, she comes to me and says, "Oh, you boy, why don't you follow your brother and see what happens there in the church?" I was very respectful. I didn't want to make my mom nervous. Yeah. And so I followed my brother. And when we reached the church, he went right away to the sanctuary, and I followed him. I was very short like this. And I was wondering if when I stand at the altar, my height would really beat the one of the altar. But I went and I found I could. And that's when I picked the interest and filled in the forms for the seminary. And after my grade 7, I had an option of entering into the diocesan seminary or the religious missionary seminary. I had no prior information about the difference, but intuitively I knew that those who go to the diocesan seminary, they will work at home. And those who go to the religious missionary seminary, they will work far away. And maybe kind of motivated by my hunting spirit, I just loved to work outside my home. And that's how I became a missionary.
Nice.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to go.
And I have never regretted about that.
Yeah.
I'd like to go to just one seminary.
Yeah.
And see what it's like.
I wish.
So Father actually celebrated his 25th year.
Oh,
Silver Jubilee as a priest.
Like he's got 25 years.
I always tell people when they ask me, "You don't look 25 years as a priest." I say, "Do you know the secret? The secret is that laugh all the time."
He's up there.
Yeah, when you laugh all the time, you are jolly, you know, you fight better.
You do.
Yeah.
We've all got to learn that.
Yeah, we are trying. I don't have it all yet. So it's an exercise to make every day, to learn how to laugh.
I have a son that laughs.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
You hear him laughing all over the place.
Yeah, but that is my biggest secret, I think, because as each day has got its own business, has got its own joys and stresses, you laugh a little bit, but without knowing it, you are stable.
It just brings a lot of joy to the heart.
Exactly.
So,
Go ahead.
Now, as a missionary, that's how you chose. You went to Ethiopia. How did that come about?
Now I had my training in a seminary in the southwest Uganda, Buchinda Seminary, and after 4 years, I had to travel. I think God was training me. Now, the first seminary is about 50 miles from my home. That was my farthest journey in life when I was 16 years. And then after 4 grades in the seminary, I had to move to northern Uganda to my philosophical classes and the novitiate. And after 4 years, now I had to cross the country. So I thought it was a journey like God was training me to be a missionary. Every phase I was progressing, even on my missionary journey. Then I crossed the border to Kenya, and I had my theological training for 4 years. And I was very, very much encouraged that when I was in my second theological classes, I was, together with one of my classmates, we were asked to go to Cameroon, which is West Africa. And I was a young boy, but that was my first flight. And we crossed the continent to West Africa. And I remember at that time making a little joke to my parents when I came back. And I said, oh, did you receive my letter? Because when I was in the plane, I opened the window and I threw the letter because I passed over. Did you? Up to now, they have never forgotten. They're still waiting for that letter.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so then I completed my theology, and in 1993, I was ordained a Catholic priest from my home diocese, which is the Southwest Uganda, Kabale Diocese. And immediately after my ordination, my first assignment was to Ethiopia. Now, Ethiopia, you have to go by flight from Uganda. And it was the first faraway mission for our order, Apostles of Jesus. And so we were really sent as missionaries to found mission land. And that took me for 11 years as a missionary in the south, in the southern parts of Ethiopia.
Now, something very profound happened in Ethiopia that completely changed your life in a totally new direction. Can you tell us that moment?
Thank you. That's very interesting. When I was assigned to Ethiopia, I was supposed to go to start a new mission. And so I had to go to prepare myself by learning a language for that mission. And I learned a language called, local language, dialect, called Guji for 4 months. Then I went to this new mission, and I was in this new mission for 1 month, about 1 month. Then one of our superior, the general superior from Kenya, where we have our general administration, arrives in Ethiopia and says, the one who was the head of the group, the parish priest, is being asked to go to Israel to study biblical studies. And we are looking for a new parish priest. Yeah. And it was very interesting. The Lord fell on me. I did not know the language because we were supposed to go to another new place that completely I had not learned the language, and I had to move from the place where I had learned the language and move there. Yeah. And it was amazing. So we started the mission, no language, no textbooks, no grammar, nothing, no Bible. Yeah. No Bible in the dialect language. After 1 year, I'm moving through the jungles on a motorcycle. I was still a learner, no roads, and I fall into an accident, fatal accident in the wilderness. And I remember trying to raise myself because the motorcycle was on me and I couldn't manage it. I don't expect anyone, by God's chance, maybe. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, comes these two children. And when I looked at their size, I could not even think of asking them to lift up the motorcycle. But from their own compassion, they started yelling and yelling, and the father, who was in the next hill where the house was, hears them and comes down, climbs to where we were, and finds me under the motorcycle. Yeah. And he removes the motorcycle. And when I tried to wake up, I can't. Yeah. My bone, the leg bone, had just come out from the knee socket and come out of the skin, through the skin. I never cried. I never regretted. I never cursed God why he did this to me and I was doing his work. The only thing I told this man was, I'm going to put my right leg, which is not broken, against the stone. I lie down, and then please pull this one and put back the bone. That was the first aid I could do.
Wasn't that, didn't it hurt? Didn't it pain?
Yeah, it was still flesh, so I think it didn't pain me so much. I was so motivated. I wanted to see the bone back. Then from there, and he had to go to call the younger Christians who were forming up that I got an accident. They came, they carried me almost 30 miles away to get to the main road. And by providence, we get this pickup. And the pickup takes me to the nearest other mission, who took me to the nearest 150 miles away hospital. And they did what they could, and they sent me back home to recover. But
and you're fine, huh?
But as I was recovering, I was losing my movements. So in the parish, we had this foreign sister from Italy, Sister Chiara Cazel, and she was walking behind me, and she saw me staggering and trying to make up my movements, and she said, "Oh, Father Dominic, you are losing your leg." I said, "Why?" "No. The more time passes, the more you lose your movements." I said, "What can I do?" And he said, "I know someone, a volunteer who has come from Italy, and she's a physiotherapist. Would you mind if we make a program to go see her? It is about 300 miles away." I said, "For sure, that will be providence." So a few days later, she says, "Let us go for the appointment." And we drive there. There was this young lady, and she looks at me and said, "No, I can't touch you." I said, "Why?" "The way you go, if I touch you, I might end up doing a wrong exercise. So you need an operation. And with this operation, then we can decide what kind of physiotherapy is fit for you." I said, "But how can I do it? I'm poor, the diocese is poor, nobody seems to be minding, we have done what we could." Then she said, "Give me a minute. I'm going to contact my friends." So she calls back home in Italy, and 2 days later, she tells me, "Oh, good news." "What?" "There is a family which is willing to host you in Italy in order for you to do your operations."
Oh, isn't that nice?
"And are you able to stay in a family as a priest?" You know, there in Italy is very difficult. It's rare to see a priest staying in a family. So I said, "What's the problem?" I think I was again moved by my spirit of hunting and missionary spirit. You know, I don't mind. I'm an adventurous man. Yeah. So I ended up in Italy. It was very expensive. I did 2 operations at different times. I had to go there 2, 3 times. And I cannot, I don't think I could be better than what they did. I move, I don't have any metro in my leg, but they did all. I don't have the tendon, but I do everything for the rest of my life.
And while you're there, you learned Italian.
Yes, I learned Italian. I learned their culture. I like very much Italian foods, you know. So, and a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends. When I just travel back, it's like home.
So we're going to move a little further. We're going to jump right up to the mango tree. So that's jumping a few years ahead. So how did that, the 3 of you, Sister Stella, Rogers, and yourself, underneath the mango tree, come up with your dream?
Thank you. That's also a very interesting one. And I would like to connect it with actually Italy.
Yeah.
So when I got, by that accident that I got, I didn't know that God was opening for me doors, though through painful ways.
Yeah.
So God has blessed me so much through that accident.
Good comes out of everything.
Very, very much so. Most of the times, you know, we get agitated, we complain, we yell, we curse, not only ourselves, but we even curse God when the bad things happen to us. And God turns everything, turns the tables upside down. So anyway, my going to Italy opened for me lots of doors. I had so many friends that eventually became very beneficial to my missionary work. Because after that, I had all these friends come to my mission in Ethiopia. They do schools, they do churches. I can't say it all. I can't say it all. So anyway, now after 11 years, I was supposed to have my sabbatical year, which I had, but I planned it that I don't waste it. I just wanted to do some study, and my study was supposed to be to combine my theology, philosophy, and also my 11 years of experience in the field. And I wanted to come out with something very unique. And so I wanted to do humanistic studies. And that's how I ended up in Rome, in a secular university, very unusual for Catholic priests. You know, a secular university called Roma Tre University, which is very close to Sapienza, the biggest, first university in Italy. And I was taking a course of human development and food security. It just scared me because I was imagining what people would say. A Catholic priest going to study about food security, is he going to be a cook, a chef? Yes, please.
What language was it you studying in?
I was almost thinking that it was English, but it ended up being 60% English and 40% Italian. But it was a tough time because
sure.
I didn't know Italian, you read to write thesis and everything, but I had to go through. It was very stressful, but I ended up and completed my course, and I graduated with my master's, then returned to Uganda, and that's when I thought about this Rwanda Solidarity School, and which we began under a mango tree.
I was there when I went to Africa with Father. We actually sat underneath the mango tree. Right now it's almost about 2.5, 3 feet in diameter, and that was actually the original site of the very first school that you started with 100 children. So, but the connections with Italy provided you the opportunity to physically start the new school.
Exactly.
On site. So you want to talk about the new school?
Yeah, I want to talk about the new school because as I grew in a family, poor, impoverished family of my own. I knew what was going on with the kids, with difficulties with education, finding school fees. So it was tough for parents, and I saw that this was a good time for me to do something. And I think God led me to go through my high school. Among the 9 of us, it's the only one. It's only me who was able to go through the high school. All others dropped out. So I always asked myself, what was my uniqueness that God had to make me go through the high school and the rest to drop on their own? So I said, God has something for me. Now, after getting these opportunities of going outside and having learned a lot from Ethiopia, impoverished areas, then I said I want to find out why children in my family and in our community resent school when they have opportunities. And I found out, I had a hypothesis that it's because there is not enough food in the families. But I couldn't find it out. So I said I want to study. So in 2004, with a sister, a religious sister, Stella, we kind of worked it out that we make a study year. And so we went to church and we made an announcement that those who would like to begin a pre-primary school should come and register the children. And we set up a classroom under this tree as a study year. And after that, I had to go back to Ethiopia and come back at the end of the year to do an evaluation. And the evaluation was amazing. The parents told me many points. Yes, please.
How old were these children?
The children were, well, we didn't have really a limit, but they were between 3 to 9. Yeah, just like mine, like mine when I began school. So anyway, so we asked the parents to bring the children, but unlike the government schools which were free, we asked the parents to contribute equivalent to $6 a year.
Oh.
Very little, but even that was very difficult for parents to raise it, you know. And we told them this money will do 2 things. The first is it will provide a mug of corn porridge every morning before the children go to the class. That was one. Second, it will kind of give some motivation to the community of volunteers, 2 ladies who were volunteering to keep the kids in class under the tree. When it rains, no school. So
No roof.
that's how we began.
I was thinking that.
That's how we began. And shortly later, Providence comes in. One of my friends in Italy sponsors, gives us money to buy a piece of land. And we constructed the first 2 classes. I think you saw them.
Yep.
They still exist.
Oh, they're beautiful too.
Yes. And we moved from under the tree. We hired a residence house. And now we were 120 kids.
Ooh.
We had 120. We have moved from the study year of 90 kids, 120, and so we are expanding. And we moved to our land. We started construction with our friends in Italy. Now, 13 years later, I said, wow, you know, I know African continent. Now I know European continent. what's unique in America? You know, as an adventurous man, I said, I want to go to America. And so I asked my superiors. The superiors said, yeah, there is a mission actually. They are requesting us, so could you move? And so I moved to America in 2011. I landed in New York. I had an orientation of about a week, and I had to fly to Oregon, Portland, Oregon. And I ended up in Grants Pass near the border with California. So I was there for 1 year and a half. But something amazing that even I would like to mention for this project, just less than a month in Grants Pass, I was still trying to figure out the roads and whatnot, and my services were involving to go to visit the sick in the hospital in Grants Pass. So I moved there, I'm asking almost everywhere, and I arrive in front of the elevator, and there is this tall gentleman. He's wearing the doctor's coat, you know, and I say, good morning, you know. I told you that being joyful solves many things. So I said, good morning, and he says, good morning. And then he asks me, are you Dominic? I said,
Total stranger now.
are you Dominic? I said, yes. Do you come from Uganda? I said, yes. So I became a little bit nervous and suspicious. Then he said, then you must be coming from Kabale. And Kabale is my home town. Then that even made my suspicion worse. So then he said, oh, I have sent you an email. Have you read it? I said, no, I haven't read my email, but when I go back, I will read it and answer back. Just I was getting a way to sneak out. Yeah. So that was the end. We entered the elevator. Reaching home, I found he's introducing himself as Dr. Bruce, who is involved with the International Doctors Without Borders. And he has been working in Uganda 2 times with the refugees. And next week, he says, I will be going to Kisoro to work with the refugees from Zaire. And that refugee camp, you just pass in front of my house, my home.
Gotta go right by.
Yeah. So then he said, if you have anything to take to your parents, I will be more than happy to do it. That I've never forgotten it. And it opened the doors I will never forget. So I prepared an envelope and gave it to him as he invited me to his house with the other families. And I gave him orders. Take this envelope, give it to my mom, tell her that this is not money to eat. It's money to buy chickens and expand the project, because our school has grown actually out of the chicken project, which Dr. Bruce did. And then when Dr. Bruce comes, he's at home in Uganda, he sends me pictures when he's with my parents in my house, in our house, sharing a meal. That made my tears stream, down. Then he comes back, he asks me a question. Father Dominic, do you have mosquitoes, malaria in your home village? I said, oh yeah. The malaria is one of the killer diseases on top. Then he said, I toured your school. I did not see any mosquito net. Yeah. And I told him, yeah, that is a priority down to the list. We cannot buy mosquito nets before buying food.
And malaria is very
Yeah.
rampant there.
So then Dr. Bruce says, me as a doctor, always going to the refugee camps to deal with malaria patients, I'm going to do something for these kids. In less than 2 months, he had raised the funds to buy 309 mosquito nets for every kid, each kid, including the staff. That was amazing. And from there, I started my missionary journey in America. And there we have, we founded a non-profit organization called Yamba Abana. May I have this?
Yes, just hold it.
Yeah, this Yamba Abana, and it is based in Oregon and works together with our school.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how much God has blessed my community, our school, through the American people, through the European, Italian people, and through so many friends around the globe.
Now, the Yamabana raised enough funds to completely build a nursery, a compound, you know. They built a couple dormitories, you know, for the boys. And so when I went with Father, accompanied Father in February, we actually went and blessed the dormitory that had just been completed when we were down there. So what led you now to Saco, Maine? How did that journey come?
You know, as an adventurous man, after staying 1.5 years in Grants Pass, Southern Oregon, then I had to move to Portland, Oregon. And I was posted there as a pastor for 4 years. And after 4 years, I said, it's my time to move and see what's happening to other place. And I crossed the continent to Maine. And when I reached in Maine, there was a need. There was, I think, a parish in Greenville that had no priest for almost 3 months. He was on sick leave. And I flew in from Oregon. I put my car on a truck that arrived 12 days later. And when I landed in Portland, then I got a bus that took me to Bengal.
Yeah.
And from Bengal, I met Monsignor Debois at a restaurant. And he got me a rental car. And with this rental car, I drove myself to Greenville. And reaching in Greenville, there was this nice lady. She was waiting for me. She took me shopping, but there was no rectory. There was no rectory for the priest. The church was being demolished. The rectory was being renovated. So I had to go to stay into a family. Oh, God bless them. It was this family. They had a golf courtyard. So they had dinner to engage me. I became free. And then from their home, I would go to Greenville town, celebrate Mass, go to Rockwood, celebrate Mass on the weekend. After that, I go to Jagaman. And everybody was questioning me. Please be careful with the moose.
Oh,
With the moose. And I was very anxious to see the moose. And I thought it was a little animal.
oh no.
Only to see a carcass, a head in someone's house. And I said, which animal is this? It's the moose. The one I thought I would just drive over, you know. And I stayed in the northern, in those areas for almost 2 months. And when the priest returned, then I came back. I came down here. And that's how I found myself in Saco, Bedford, Raymond, and all the orchard. Yeah.
I bet while you were up in Greenville, you attempted to take your spear out again and do some game hunting.
Oh, actually, I went hunting, but the first day I went hunting, I was given a plane view. And a friend took me by plane and to have the view of the forest.
Yeah.
And then later go hunting, you know.
My father used to go hunting for moose
Yeah.
many years ago.
Yeah, I like hunting. I like hunting. With a spear, with my dog, you know.
So Father's life was in 3 different pies. Like, he had the faith, education, and food security. So you started your life into education, faith, being a priest. Then by going to Italy, that ended up giving you the spirit of education you went to Rome.
Sure.
And so your last piece of the pie is what actually, when you came here to Saco, it was agriculture. So when Father and I first met, I knew there was a lot of French colonies in Africa. So the first time I saw Father, I said, "Oh, Pete, parle français?" He says, "Bien." Oui. He said, "Well, that's all I know, Comment ça va?" But he didn't know any French. But with that opening is when Father realized I was an organic farmer. So I invited Father to my home. He was looking at what I was doing, because the style of farming that I do was really close to what it is at his homeland, where I did my whole acre by hand. I used very little tools. My soil was completely impoverished. There was nothing, no fertility in my soil. Almost everything that's at his homeland. So I asked Father, I said, he was going home a year ago, and I says, "Father, is there a person like me, a person like me can do something for you?" He says, "After I come back, I'll let you know." So when Father came back from his 6 weeks to Uganda, I says, "Father, is there something there that a person like me can do?" He says, "God willing." So I asked Father to accompany him to his homeland the following year. So this year in February, I went with him, spent a month. I spent 2.5 weeks with his family, with his community, got to travel to Jinja with the Apostles of Jesus. I went to Kampala. I got to see Lake Victoria. I went to Rwanda. We went to Kibeho, where the Blessed Mother appeared to 3 children. And we spent a lot of time there. And I got to sit down with his nieces, his nephews, his brothers. We got to work the soil. I brought a lot of stuff with me, tools, seeds. And by the time we were done sitting down together and educating each other and working the soil together, when I came back, I was getting news that the products were 10 times more than what they produced in the same land before we went down there. So,
Isn't that wonderful?
So a lot was done with just a little education of theirs and mine together. A lot of good happened. So, with that said, Paula, my wife, was very nervous that I was going down there. She was very fearful that I went down there. But after I came back and told everybody here of the good news, of the love and the faith and the goodness of everybody that's in Uganda and Father's homeland, the love of the children, now we are actually preparing ourselves for 12 of us to go back in 2020 to retrace our steps that I took.
Missionary group.
The missionary group.
It's a missionary group.
Yeah. But the one thing that I will do this time, which I didn't do the first time because I had to make a choice, was to either go to a safari, which was my passion as a child, or go to Kibeho, which was Father's passion as a child. He had made 2 previous attempts to go to Kibeho. So when the time came, Father introduced me to Scovia, who was a tourism guide to Queen Elizabeth. And when she found out that I wanted to go, boy, she was going to give us a private tour of Queen Elizabeth's safari.
Isn't that?
But we ran out of time.
Oh,
We had 3 days to spare, and the days were gone. So a decision had to be made. We're either going to go to Cabello or we're going to go to Queen Elizabeth. And Father, as a loving man, he says, Dan, he says, you are here as the invited guest. You decide where to go. You want to go to Queen Elizabeth? I will go with you. And I looked at Father, and I says, Father, you know we're going to Cabello, without even a hesitation. So we got to journey to a second country, Rwanda, and we had the privilege of sitting down and talking to Anality, and she is actually one of the children, she's about 54 now, that the Blessed Mother appeared to. So I actually sat down, all four of us sat down, we had the rare privilege of her inviting us, with something she really does, to talk to her. And she gave her special message that the Blessed Mother gave her. So we both, all four of us, got to ask 2 questions apiece. And she answered, the Blessed Mother told me to tell you. And that's how she answered the questions.
yeah, beautiful.
So the safari was much in my heart. But by the time I came back from Rwanda and Cabello, the safari was not even there anymore. Cabello and the Blessed Mother was in my heart after that, you know.
Isn't that nice?
But the good Lord works in good ways.
Oh, yes.
Because me not knowing, I had forfeited my only time in my life that I was able to go to a safari. When I came back home, within 2 months, decisions were made to go back. So now when we go back, we are going to the safari.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Good,
So, yeah,
good. Well, you know, our time is up.
okay. That was
Is there
fast.
anything special you'd like to say?
Yes. I would like to end by saying that each one of us is created for a purpose. And our purpose of creation is revealed along time. And it's all from God. That's supernatural power that drives us. Because I cannot tell where I get the power to do what I do.
He gives it to you.
He gives it to me. And we are created for 2 purposes. Just to enjoy that supernatural power and love, but also to be useful to one another. Yeah. And if we go by those 2 guidelines, you will enjoy life and you will be the best you can.
Wouldn't it be nice if the whole world went by those guidelines?
I think so.
Well, you think there's any hope?
Yeah, there is hope because he's in charge.
Right.
I believe he's in church, so there is hope. Yeah, we may feel discouraged, we may see things as if they are going at thunder, but we are not alone. We are not alone. Yeah, I have come from a little village, but I have a long story to tell.
I know.
It's not by me. And I'm still making it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Thank you.
I thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
It was most interesting.
Thank you so
you.
much.
And thank you for the help.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Dan, for bringing me.
Absolutely. It was my
Thank you.
pleasure. Yeah.
He's a great person.
Yeah, very, very much.
My new motto, from an adventure to a journey of faith, every day is new. How's that?
I
Thank you
can
so
see
much.
it from what you do.
Thank you.
Beautiful. I'm going to keep this, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
And I might put it in a little bit in my column.
Okay.
Okay?
That'd be
Okay,
beautiful.
good. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, ZAFFIE.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
folks, I was just fascinated and listening and trying to think of all those places. I'm going to go home and look at the map and see where I've been today. Thank you for listening and being with us. Thank you again, both of you. And as I always say, don't fall. Love, ZAFFIE.